"You can't last a day without me," he said. I packed my bags, left my sister's number for emergencies with the child, and disappeared for a week. On day 3, he begged me to explain. How to turn on the washing machine. My name is Keisha Williams. I'm 32 years old, and I'm about to tell you the story of how I accidentally gave my husband the education he desperately needed, but was too proud to ask for. Let me paint you a picture of my life before this weekend. Every morning at 6 a.m., I wake up and mentally run through the day's checklist. Zoe's uniform laid out? Check. Her lunch packed with the sandwich cut diagonally because triangles are more fun to eat? Check. Permission slip for the field trip signed and in her backpack? Check. Marcus's work clothes clean and ready? Check. Bills paid so we don't lose electricity? Check. Grocery list made so we don't eat cereal for dinner again? Check. Meanwhile, Marcus rolls out of bed at 7:30, grabs coffee that I made, kisses Zoe goodbye while she's already dressed and fed, and heads to his construction job thinking he's the provider of the family. Here's the kicker. I run a graphic design business from home that brings in more money than his construction work. But somehow, because he leaves the house every morning and I work in my pajamas, he's convinced that his paycheck is what keeps our family afloat. For 8 years, I've been the chief operating officer of the Williams household, managing everything from Zoe's doctor appointments to our mortgage payments to remembering his mother's birthday. But apparently, keeping track of our 9-year-old daughter's school schedule, paying bills on time, and making sure we have actual food in the house makes me controlling. The breaking point came last Saturday night at our annual barbecue. My friend Aaliyah and her husband Devin were visiting from Chicago for their week-long summer vacation. Devin's one of those guys who thinks he's enlightened because he helps with dishes sometimes, and Marcus had clearly been saving up his grievances about my micromanaging for months. Picture this. Backyard full of friends, everyone relaxed and happy, kids playing in the sprinkler, and the men standing around the grill with beers, feeling very important about their meat-flipping duties. That's when Marcus decided to hold court. "You know what I love about these guys' trips?" Marcus announced, gesturing toward Devin with his beer bottle. "Finally, some peace from all the nagging. Marcus, did you remember this? Marcus, don't forget that." Like we're children who can't handle basic responsibilities. Devin, emboldened by male solidarity and alcohol, jumped right in. "Oh man, yes! Aaliyah leaves me these lists. Lists! Like I don't know how to buy groceries or do laundry. Women think they invented organization." I felt my eye twitch. Those lists Devin was mocking? I'd seen Aaliyah make them. They contained things like buy milk before it expires, pay electric bill to avoid disconnection, and pick up prescription before pharmacy closes. Revolutionary concepts, clearly, but Marcus wasn't done. Oh no, he was just getting warmed up. "The worst part," he continued, now playing to his audience of nodding husbands, "is how they act like we can't survive without them. Like, Keisha thinks if she's not managing every detail of our lives, the whole house will fall apart." Several wives had stopped their conversations to listen. I saw my neighbor Janet raise her eyebrows. My friend Lisa had gone very still. Even the kids seemed to sense something was shifting in the adult atmosphere. "Honestly," Marcus said, taking another swig of beer, "sometimes I think we'd be better off without all the micromanaging. Let us figure things out for ourselves for once, you know?" That's when Devin, probably feeling like he was in some sort of sitcom about married life, delivered the line that sealed both their fates. Right? Like, how hard can it be to run a house and take care of one kid? Women make it seem so complicated because they like being needed. They like the control. The silence that followed was deafening. Even the kids had stopped splashing in the sprinkler. I looked around at the other wives. Lisa's mouth was hanging open. Janet looked like she was calculating how many years of her life she'd wasted on her ungrateful husband. My sister Maya, who was visiting with her own family, had her arms crossed and was giving Marcus the death stare that had terrified him since we were teenagers. But it was Aaliyah's reaction that really got to me. This woman runs marketing campaigns for Fortune 500 companies, manages a team of 12 people, and somehow still finds time to meal prep for the week and keep Devon's life organized. And her husband had just dismissed all of it as making things complicated because she likes being needed. She caught my eye across the yard, and I saw something I'd never seen before in my put-together friend: pure, crystallized fury. The party continued, but the energy was different. The wives clustered together, speaking in low, intense voices. The husbands, oblivious to the storm they'd created, continued their beer-fueled bonding session about how easy their lives would be without their controlling wives. Marcus cornered me by the kitchen later, probably expecting praise for his performance. Pretty good speech out there, right? I think the guys really related to what I was saying about giving us some space to handle things ourselves. I looked at this man I'd been married to for 8 years, this man who I'd supported through 2 job changes, a brief existential crisis about turning 30, and his mother's 6-month stay with us after her hip surgery. This man who'd never once planned a birthday party for his own daughter, never once made a doctor's appointment, never once paid attention to when we were running low on toilet paper. "You're absolutely right, Marcus," I said, and his face lit up like he'd won some sort of debate. "You should definitely have space to handle things yourselves." "Exactly. I'm glad you finally see. In fact," I continued, "I think you should have complete space, total freedom from my micromanaging." Something in my tone must have registered because his victory smile faltered slightly. "Well, I didn't say, 'No, you're completely right. How hard can it be to run a house and take care of one kid, right? You've been watching me do it for 8 years. I'm sure you've picked up all the basics by now." By this point, Aaliyah had joined us, and she was nodding along with everything I said. "Devon said the same thing," she added sweetly, "about how we make everything seem so complicated." "So here's what we're going to do," I announced, loud enough for both our husbands to hear. "Aaliyah and I are going to give you gentlemen exactly what you asked for. Complete freedom from our nagging, micromanaging, and unnecessary complications." Devon looked confused. "What do you mean?" Aaliyah's smile could have powered our house for a week. "We mean we're going on vacation, tomorrow, for 5 days. You two can show everyone how easy it is to handle everything without our interference." The color drained from Marcus's face. "Wait, that's not what I—" "Oh, but it is exactly what you meant," I said. "You said we'd be better off without all the micromanaging. Let's test that theory. Consider it a gift. 5 days of complete domestic freedom." "But what about Zoe?" Marcus sputtered. "And work. And Zoe is your daughter too, Marcus. And you just spent 20 minutes explaining to our friends how capable you are. This is your chance to prove it." Devon was looking back and forth between us like he was watching a tennis match. "Now hold on, let's think about this." "We have thought about it," Aaliyah said. "We've thought about it for 8 years of marriage. We've thought about it every time we've been called controlling for caring about whether our families have food, clean clothes, and functioning schedules. I felt a rush of liberation I hadn't experienced since before I became a mother. You know what, Aaliyah? Let's book that spa in Asheville we've been talking about for 3 years. The one with the wine tastings and the couples massage? That's the one. Except it'll just be us. A girls' trip. A very, very relaxing girls' trip." The party ended not long after that, with most of our friends making awkward excuses about early mornings and babysitters. As people filed out, I caught snippets of whispered conversations. Did she really just leave him with their kid for a week? Good for her, honestly. My husband would die if I tried that. Maybe your husband shouldn't say stupid things at parties. After everyone left, Marcus tried damage control. "Keisha, come on, you know I didn't mean it like that. I was just guy talk, blowing off steam." "Guy talk," I repeated. "Interesting. So when you're with the guys, you think it's appropriate to trash the mother of your child and the person who keeps your life functioning?" "That's not what I was doing." "That's exactly what you were doing, Marcus. You reduced everything I do for this family to nagging and micromanaging. You dismissed my contributions as me just liking control. So now you get to experience what life is like without my control. He tried a different approach. What if something goes wrong? What if I mess up? For a split second, I almost caved. This was my husband, after all, the father of my child, the man I'd promised to support in sickness and health. But then I remembered his words. How hard can it be? Then you'll figure it out, I said. You're a grown man, Marcus. You've been watching me handle these responsibilities for 8 years. I'm sure you've learned something by now. That night, while Marcus sulked in the living room, I packed 2 bags, one for me and one for Aaliyah. I felt like a teenager sneaking out of the house, except instead of rebelling against my parents, I was rebelling against the thankless role I'd been playing in my own marriage. Sunday morning, I left a note on the kitchen counter next to the coffee maker. Marcus and Devin, since you both made it clear that managing a household is easy and that we complicate things unnecessarily, we're giving you the opportunity to prove how capable you are. We'll be back Friday evening. Zoe's emergency contacts are on the refrigerator. Maya's number is highlighted for actual emergencies only. The house, bills, child, and all other simple responsibilities are now entirely yours. Good luck, your micromanaging wives. I taped $200 in cash to the note, grocery money that I was sure they'd need since they'd never paid attention to how much weekly shopping actually costs. By 8 a.m., Aaliyah and I were on the road to Asheville, leaving behind 2 very confused husbands and one 9-year-old who was about to get the most educational week of her young life. As we drove away, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years, complete freedom from responsibility for anyone's life but my own. It was terrifying and exhilarating all at once.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, I'm 9 years old, and I need to tell you about the week my daddy learned that taking care of me is way harder than he thought it would be. It started Sunday morning when I woke up and Mommy wasn't there. This was already weird because Mommy always wakes me up at exactly 7:30 by opening my curtains and saying, "Good morning, sunshine," in her happy voice. But Sunday, my room was still dark and nobody was making the coffee smell that usually wakes me up. I went to Mommy and Daddy's room, but only Daddy was there, and he was still snoring really loud. Mommy says Daddy snores like a freight train, and now I know what she means. Our neighbor, Mr. Peterson, has a really loud lawnmower, and Daddy's snoring sounds just like that, but with more gurgling. I tried shaking Daddy's shoulder like Mommy does when she needs to wake him up for early work days. Daddy? Daddy, where's Mommy? He made a groaning sound and rolled over. One of his eyes opened halfway, and he looked at me like he was confused about why there was a child in his bedroom. Zoe, what time is it? I don't know. Where's Mommy? Daddy sat up really fast, like when you remember you forgot to do your homework right before school starts. His hair was sticking up in all different directions, and he had those lines on his face that you get when you sleep on your pillow weird. Mommy went on a trip, sweetheart, remember? She and Aunt Aaliyah went to a spa. I did remember them talking about going somewhere, but I thought it was just grown-up talk that doesn't actually happen. Like when Daddy says we're going to clean out the garage next weekend, but we never do. When is she coming back? Friday. Friday seemed really far away. Like, really, really far away. That's 5 days! Yes, it's 5 days. Daddy said this like he was just figuring out how big 5 days is. We went downstairs and found a note on the kitchen counter. Daddy read it out loud, but he kept stopping to make faces like the words tasted bad in his mouth. When he got to the part about good luck, he crumpled up the note and threw it in the trash. What's for breakfast? I asked, because my stomach was making the hungry noise and Mommy always has breakfast ready when I come downstairs. Daddy opened the refrigerator and stared into it for a really long time. Like, a really long time. I could have counted to 100 probably. He said, what do you usually eat for breakfast? This seemed like a weird question. Daddy sees me eat breakfast every day. Oatmeal with cinnamon and a little bit of honey. And orange juice in my special cup. Right, oatmeal. He said this like I had asked him to build a rocket ship. Where does Mommy keep the oatmeal? I showed him the cabinet where we keep all the breakfast stuff. Daddy took out the big container of oats and stared at it like it was going to tell him what to do.
How much oatmeal do you eat?
I don't know. Mommy makes it.
Right. Mommy makes it.
He opened the container and sniffed it.
Does it need water or milk?
Water, I think. And you have to cook it. Daddy nodded like this was very serious information. He put some oats in a bowl. Way too many oats. Like enough for 3 kids. And added water until it looked like soup.
Do I cook it on the stove or in the microwave?
Mommy uses the stove. Daddy put the bowl on the stove and turned on the heat. But he forgot to stir it, so it started making crackling sounds and smelling burnt. When he finally remembered to stir it, it was all lumpy, and some parts were still dry oats, and other parts were like glue. There, he said, like he had just painted the Mona Lisa. Breakfast! The oatmeal was terrible. Like, really terrible. It was lumpy and burnt, and he forgot the cinnamon and honey. I tried to eat it because I didn't want to hurt Daddy's feelings, but it was like eating paste that someone dropped on the floor.
Is it good? Daddy asked hopefully.
It's different from Mommy's. Different good or different bad? I didn't want to lie, but I also didn't want to make Daddy sad. Different. Interesting. Daddy tasted it and made a face like when you accidentally drink expired milk.
Yeah, this is terrible. Want some cereal instead?
We didn't have any clean bowls because nobody had done dishes, so I ate Cheerios out of a coffee mug while Daddy tried to figure out how to use the coffee maker. Mommy always has coffee ready when Daddy wakes up, but apparently Daddy doesn't know how to make coffee for himself. He pressed a bunch of buttons and nothing happened. Then he opened the top and stared inside like the coffee was supposed to magically appear. "How does this thing work?" he asked me. "I don't know, Daddy. I'm 9. I don't drink coffee."
Right, of course.
He looked around the kitchen like he was lost in his own house.
Maybe I don't need coffee.
But 10 minutes later, he was looking in all the cabinets for instant coffee, making desperate mumbling sounds like,
"Where does your mother keep the... How do you even... Why is this so complicated?"
Uncle Devin came over around 10 o'clock, looking just as confused as Daddy. His hair was messy too, and he was wearing yesterday's clothes.
"Aaliyah's gone,"
he announced, like he was reporting that aliens had landed.
"Keisha too,"
Daddy said.
"They actually did it.
They actually left. For 5 days.
5 whole days."
They stared at each other like they were trying to figure out how they'd gotten into this situation. Which was funny because I was there yesterday when they were talking about how easy it would be to take care of me without Mommy's help.
"Well," Uncle Devin said, "how hard can it be, right? That's what we said." "Right," Daddy agreed. But his voice sounded like when I say sure when the dentist asks if I've been flossing. "What's the plan?" Uncle Devin asked. "Plan?" Daddy looked confused again. "I thought you had a plan." "Why would I have a plan? This is your house. She's your kid. But you're visiting. You're supposed to help." "Help with what? I don't know anything about kids." I was still eating Cheerios out of my coffee mug, watching them argue about who was going to take care of me. It was like watching a really weird TV show. "Maybe we should make a list," Daddy said. "Like, what needs to happen today?" "Good idea. What needs to happen today?" They both looked at me like I was going to tell them how to be grown-ups. "I need to get dressed for school tomorrow," I said because that seemed obvious. "And we need groceries because there's no food except Cheerios. And someone needs to do laundry because I don't have any clean uniform shirts." "Uniform shirts?" Daddy's eyes got wide like I had said something in a foreign language. "For school, Daddy. I have to wear my uniform to school." "Right. Uniform. What does your uniform look like again?" I stared at him. "I've been wearing the same uniform to school for 2 years. Navy blue polo shirt, khaki skirt or pants, white socks, black shoes. Daddy sees me in this uniform every single school day. Navy shirt, khaki skirt, white socks," I said slowly, like I was talking to someone who didn't speak English very well. And where do we keep those? In my closet? Daddy and Uncle Devin went upstairs to look at my clothes. I heard them opening drawers and moving things around and having a very serious discussion about which shirts were navy blue and which shirts were just regular blue. They came back downstairs looking defeated. "All your uniform shirts are dirty," Daddy announced. "That's why we need to do laundry." "Right.
Laundry.
Daddy said this the same way he had said oatmeal, like it was a mysterious and dangerous thing.
Where's the washing machine? Uncle Devin asked. I showed them the laundry room, which is right next to the kitchen and has a big sign on the door that says laundry, because Daddy used to always ask where the washing machine was. Daddy opened the washing machine and looked inside like he'd never seen one before. Okay, how hard can this be? You put clothes in, add soap, and turn it on, right? That's what Mommy does, I agreed. See? Easy! But as I watched Daddy try to figure out which buttons to push and how much soap to use, I started to think that maybe this week was going to be more interesting than I thought. And by interesting, I mean the kind of interesting that makes you really, really miss your mommy. Do you want to hear how my daddy survived the rest of the week without Mommy? It gets funnier and way worse. Don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe so I can tell you the rest of the story. Please, please, please.
Sunday afternoon, Aaliyah and I checked into the Mountain View Spa Resort in Asheville, and I swear I felt my shoulders drop 3 inches the moment we walked through the doors. The lobby smelled like eucalyptus and possibility, and for the first time in 8 years, nobody was asking me where their socks were or when dinner would be ready. I can't believe we actually did it, Aaliyah said as we followed the bellhop to our rooms. I keep waiting for Devin to call and beg us to come back. Give it 12 hours, I said. By tomorrow morning, they'll realize they don't even know what time Zoe needs to be at school. Our rooms were side by side with a connecting door, and they were absolutely perfect. Fluffy white robes, essential oil diffusers, and windows that looked out over mountains that didn't need me to manage them or remind them to pay their bills. I unpacked my bag, the bag I had packed entirely for myself, full of books I wanted to read and clothes I wanted to wear, and felt something I hadn't experienced in years, complete blissful silence in my brain. No mental to-do lists running in the background, no subconscious countdown of when I needed to start dinner prep, no automatic catalog of which bills were due this week, just quiet. Aaliyah knocked on the connecting door around 4 p.m. Ready for our first official act of rebellion? What did you have in mind? Champagne by the pool, in the middle of the day, like people who don't have to worry about setting good examples or managing anyone's blood sugar levels. We spent the afternoon lounging by the pool, reading magazines we'd bought just for fun, not because they contained important information about child development or home organization. I read an entire article about celebrity fashion without once thinking about whether any of the outfits would be appropriate for a school pickup or budget-friendly for a working mother. You know what I just realized? I said, adjusting my sunglasses. I haven't checked my phone in 2 hours. Are you going to check it now? I considered this. My phone probably had messages from Marcus, questions about Zoe's routine, or where I keep the grocery list, or how to work the remote control. All the things he'd been perfectly capable of figuring out for himself, but had never bothered to learn because I was always there to handle them. Nope, I said, and ordered another champagne. Let them figure it out. By evening, we'd moved to the spa restaurant for dinner, a meal that someone else cooked, served, and would clean up after. No one asked me to cut their food or reminded me that they didn't like vegetables or negotiated about dessert. This is so weird, Aaliyah said, twirling pasta around her fork. I keep waiting for someone to need something from me. I know, it's like phantom limb syndrome, but for domestic responsibilities. My phone buzzed. Text from Marcus. Where do you keep Zoe's school stuff? I showed Aaliyah, who snorted with laughter. Day 1, question 1. They're not even going to make it to Monday. Another buzz. How do you make her lunch? Then, what does she usually eat for dinner? Then, what time is bedtime exactly? Then, Keisha, please call me. Aaliyah was getting similar texts from Devin. How long do you cook pasta? Followed by, never mind, ordered pizza. Followed by, how do you work the dishwasher? We made a pact over dessert. A dessert we ordered entirely because we wanted it, not because we were trying to negotiate with a 9-year-old's sugar demands. We only respond to actual emergencies, I said. Blood, fire, or police involvement. Agreed. Everything else they figure out themselves. They said we make everything too complicated. Let's see how they handle the simple version. My phone kept buzzing throughout dessert. I turned it face down and focused on my chocolate mousse. Chocolate mousse I was eating at a leisurely pace, without having to share, without having to negotiate about whether it counted as dinner. This was what freedom tasted like, apparently. Like chocolate and champagne and the complete absence of anyone asking me where their clean underwear was.
Hi, it's me, Zoe, back again before part 2. Let's play a game. I'll tell you what happened next, and you try not to laugh. If you laugh, I win your like and subscribe. Please? Monday morning was when things got really interesting. And by interesting, I mean really, really bad. I woke up at my normal time because my body is used to waking up at 7:30. But nobody came to get me ready for school. I could hear Daddy in his room making the sounds he makes when he's sleeping, like a broken truck mixed with a dying whale. I waited for 10 minutes, then 15 minutes, then 20 minutes. Finally, I got out of bed and went to wake up Daddy myself. Daddy, it's school time. 5 more minutes. Daddy, I need to get ready for school. School? One of his eyes opened and he looked at me like I was speaking Chinese. What time is it? I don't know, but it's Monday. I have school on Monday. Daddy sat up really fast and looked at his clock. His eyes got really big and he said a word that I'm not supposed to say. Zoe, it's 8:15. School starts at 8:30. I know, Daddy. That's why I came to wake you up. He jumped out of bed and started running around the room putting on yesterday's clothes. Okay, we can do this. Quick shower, get dressed, grab breakfast on the way. Daddy, I can't take a shower in 15 minutes. My hair takes forever to dry. Right, no shower. Just get dressed really fast. I went to my room to find my uniform, but all my navy polo shirts were still dirty in the laundry basket. We never did the laundry yesterday because Daddy and Uncle Devin spent most of the day trying to figure out how to use the TV remote after I accidentally switched it to the Spanish channel. Daddy! I called. I don't have any clean uniform shirts. What do you mean you don't have clean shirts? They're all dirty in the laundry basket, where dirty clothes go. I heard Daddy making frustrated noises in his room. Then he came to my room and started looking through my closet like he'd never seen it before. What about this? He held up a regular t-shirt that says World's Best Daughter on it. That's not my uniform, Daddy. But it's clean. But it's not uniform. We have to wear uniforms to school. Mrs. Peterson sends notes home when kids don't wear uniforms. Daddy looked at the shirt, then at me, then back at the shirt, like he was trying to solve a really hard math problem. Okay, what about this? He pulled out my pink polo shirt that I wear on weekends. It's pink, Daddy. Uniforms are navy blue. Close enough. I could tell Daddy was getting frustrated because he was making the same face Uncle Devin makes when he's trying to put together furniture from IKEA. Maybe I should just stay home today, I suggested, because Daddy looked like he might cry. No, you can't miss school. I'll figure this out. He dug deeper into my closet and found a navy blue shirt, but it was my dress-up shirt that has buttons and is supposed to be worn with a skirt for church. Perfect, he said, like he had just discovered buried treasure. Daddy, that's my church shirt. It's navy blue. But it's fancy, and it has to be tucked in. And I need a belt. We don't have time for belts. Let's go. So I went to school wearing my fancy church shirt with khaki shorts instead of a skirt, no belt, and hair that Daddy tried to brush but gave up on halfway through. I looked like I had gotten dressed in the dark, which basically I had. Mrs. Peterson, my teacher, has this look she gives kids when they come to school looking messy. It's not a mean look exactly, but it's the look grown-ups give you when they know something is wrong at home, but they're trying to be nice about it. Zoe, that's a very pretty shirt, she said. But she was looking at me like she was trying to solve a puzzle. Thank you, Mrs. Peterson. My daddy picked it out. I see. Is everything okay at home? My mommy went on vacation and Daddy is learning how to take care of me by himself. Mrs. Peterson nodded like this explained everything. Well, you tell your daddy that if he needs any help with anything, he can always call the school office. At lunch, my friend Emma asked why I looked fancy, but also messy at the same time. My daddy doesn't know about uniforms yet, I explained. My mommy is teaching him a lesson about taking care of me. What kind of lesson? I think it's the kind where you learn by making mistakes. Emma nodded seriously. My daddy learned that lesson when my mommy went to visit my grandma for a weekend. We ate ice cream for breakfast, and he let me stay up until midnight watching movies. That sounds fun. It was fun until I threw up in my bed and Daddy didn't know how to wash sheets. After school, I had to wait in the extended care room because Daddy forgot what time school ends. All the other kids got picked up at 3:30, but I was still there at 4, then 4:30. Mrs. Johnson, who runs extended care, kept asking me if I was sure my daddy was coming. He's coming, I said. He's just learning how to remember things. Finally, at 5:15, Daddy came running in, looking like he'd been chased by bees. His hair was all messy, and he had paint on his shirt from work.
Zoe, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I completely forgot what time school ends.
Mrs. Johnson gave Daddy the same look Mrs. Peterson had given me that morning. School ends at 3:30, Mr. Williams. Extended care ends at 6, but we do charge extra for late pickups.
Extra charge, right, of course.
Daddy was nodding like he understood, but I could tell he was just learning this information for the first time. In the car, Daddy kept apologizing.
I'm sorry, sweetheart. Tomorrow I'll remember. I'll set an alarm on my phone.
It's okay, Daddy. Learning is hard sometimes.
Yeah, he said quietly. Learning is really hard.
When we got home, Uncle Devin was sitting at our kitchen table looking defeated. The kitchen looked like a tornado had hit it.
There were dishes everywhere, and something sticking on the floor that made my shoes make squeaking sounds when I walked. How did it go today? Daddy asked Uncle Devin. Well, I tried to do laundry, and... Remember how your kitchen flooded yesterday with all those bubbles?
Yeah?
Well, now I know why that happened. Apparently, dish soap and laundry detergent are different things. Daddy sat down at the table and put his head in his hands. We are so screwed.
Daddy, you said a bad word.
Sorry, Zoe. We are so challenged.
Can we order pizza again? Uncle Devin and Daddy looked at each other, then at the disaster in our kitchen, then back at each other.
Yeah, Daddy said. Let's order pizza.
While we waited for the pizza, I did my homework at the kitchen table, carefully avoiding the sticky spots. Daddy and Uncle Devin sat across from me, staring at the laundry room like it was haunted.
Tomorrow we'll figure out the washing machine, Daddy said. Tomorrow we'll figure out everything, Uncle Devin agreed.
But they didn't sound very confident about it. After dinner, pizza and juice boxes because we were out of everything else, Daddy tried to give me a bath, but he used too much bubble bath and the bathtub overflowed and flooded the bathroom floor.
This is harder than it looks,
he said, sopping up water with every towel we owned.
Mommy uses just a tiny bit of bubble bath. Good to know for next time.
When it was time for my bedtime story, Daddy realized he didn't know which books I like or how many stories Mommy usually reads to me.
What's your favorite bedtime story?
He asked. Charlotte's Web. But we're on chapter 12.
Chapter 12? How many chapters are there?
22. Daddy looked at the book like it had personally offended him.
That's a lot of chapters.
Mommy and I have been reading it for 3 weeks. A chapter every night.
Right.
Of course. He opened the book and started reading, but he kept yawning and his eyes looked really tired. Halfway through the chapter, I could tell he was having trouble staying awake. Daddy, are you tired?
A little bit, sweetheart. Taking care of you it's more work than I remembered.
Mommy does it every day.
Yeah, he said quietly. She does.
After he tucked me in and turned off my light, I could hear him downstairs talking to Uncle Devin. Their voices sounded worried and sad.
Day 1 and I already messed up like 6 different things, Daddy was saying.
At least you didn't flood the kitchen again, Uncle Devin said. I'm pretty sure I broke their washing machine. Keisha's going to kill us when she gets back, if we survive until she gets back. I pulled my covers up over my head and tried not to worry about Daddy and Uncle Devin. They were grown-ups. They were supposed to know how to take care of things. But as I fell asleep, I couldn't help thinking that maybe Mommy was right about them needing to learn some things.
Monday evening, Aaliyah and I were enjoying a lovely dinner at the spa's farm-to-table restaurant when my phone started performing what I can only describe as a technological seizure. Buzz, 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 buzz. I glanced at the screen. 14 missed texts from Marcus. Let me guess, Aaliyah said, cutting into her perfectly prepared salmon that no one had asked her to share. They're having a wonderful, stress-free day managing everything without our interference? I'm almost afraid to look. The text read like a real-time documentary of domestic collapse. Where do you keep Zoe's school backpack? How do I pack her lunch? What does she eat for lunch? Found the backpack. Can't find lunchbox. Never mind, used a plastic bag. School starts at 8:30, right? We were late. They gave me a look. Zoe wore her church shirt to school because everything else is dirty. How do you do laundry without flooding the house? Devin broke the washing machine. Why is everything so sticky? Please call me. Please. Keisha. Aaliyah was getting her own stream of consciousness from Devin. How do you turn on the dishwasher? Never mind, don't need dishwasher. Actually do need dishwasher. Everything is dirty. Bought paper plates. Problem solved. Paper plates are expensive. Why are paper plates so expensive? How much does food cost normally? We stared at our phones, then at each other, then burst out laughing. They've been independent adults for less than 24 hours, I said, and they're acting like they've been stranded on a desert island. The best part, Aaliyah said, scrolling through Devin's messages, is that they're discovering all the things they never paid attention to, like how much groceries cost, or that school has specific start times. My phone rang. Marcus. I looked at Aaliyah, who was getting a call from Devin at the same moment. What do? We made a pact. Emergencies only. Is incompetence an emergency? We declined the calls and turned our phones face down. They need to sit with this feeling, I said. They need to understand what it's like to be completely responsible for another human being's well-being. Plus, Aaliyah added, raising her wine glass, we're having the first peaceful dinner we've had in years. I'm not giving that up to explain how to operate household appliances to grown men. The phones kept buzzing throughout dinner, but we ignored them. Instead, we talked about things we hadn't had uninterrupted conversations about in years. Our work, our dreams, our friendships outside of our roles as wives and mothers. You know what's crazy? I said over dessert, a creme brulee that I didn't have to share with anyone. I'd forgotten that I'm actually interesting, like as a person, not just as someone who manages other people's lives. When's the last time someone asked you what you wanted to do instead of what needed to be done? I thought about it. Honestly, I can't remember. After dinner, we walked through the resort gardens, and I felt something I hadn't experienced in years: physical relaxation. My shoulders weren't hunched from carrying everyone else's stress. My jaw wasn't clenched from biting back responses to helpful suggestions about how I should manage my own household. Check your phone, Aaliyah said as we sat by the garden fountain. I need to know how bad it's gotten. The latest message from Marcus, sent 20 minutes ago. Zoe asked me to read her a bedtime story, and I don't know which books she likes or how many chapters we're supposed to read. I didn't know we were in the middle of a chapter book. How do you keep track of all these details? Devin's latest to Aaliyah. I tried to make spaghetti and somehow set off the smoke alarm. Twice. The neighbors came over to check on us. This is humiliating. Oh, I said, scrolling further. Marcus forgot to pick Zoe up from extended care. The school had to call him. Aaliyah winced. Devin flooded the bathroom trying to give himself a shower. He couldn't figure out how to adjust the water pressure in our guest bathroom. They're falling apart. Completely. Should we be worried? We sat in silence for a moment, listening to the fountain and the distant sound of other spa guests having quiet, relaxing conversations that didn't involve crisis management. "Here's what I think," Aaliyah said finally. "They're not in any real danger. Zoe is fed, sheltered, and going to school. Devin has access to food and shelter and hot water, even if he can't figure out the shower controls. They're experiencing inconvenience and incompetence, not actual emergencies." You're right. They're learning what it feels like to be completely responsible for the daily maintenance of life. And they're learning that what they called micromanaging was actually managing. My phone buzzed with one more text from Marcus. "I'm sorry, I didn't know it was this hard. Please call me back." For a moment, I felt the familiar tug of responsibility. My husband needed help. My daughter was probably confused and maybe a little scared by the chaos at home. Every maternal and wifely instinct I had was screaming at me to call them back, to fix the problems, to restore order to their world. But then I remembered his words from Saturday night. We'd be better off without all the micromanaging. "Not yet," I said, putting my phone in my purse. "They asked for independence. They're getting independence." "How long do we let them struggle?" "Until they understand that what we do isn't nagging or controlling. It's keeping their lives functional." That night, I slept better than I had in months. No one woke me up asking where their work clothes were. No one needed me to mediate a conflict or solve a problem or remember something they'd forgotten. Just 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep in a bed that I didn't have to share with someone who steals covers and snores like a freight train. It was glorious.
You know what I love even more than reading sweet compliments in the comments? Seeing your beautiful face pop up in my subscribers list. So hit that button for me, please. Tuesday after school, Daddy picked me up on time because he set 5 different alarms on his phone, and he seemed really excited about something. Guess what we're doing today, Zoe? What? We're going grocery shopping, like a real father-daughter team. I wasn't sure why grocery shopping was supposed to be exciting, but Daddy seemed proud of himself for thinking of it, so I tried to look happy. Don't we usually go grocery shopping on Sundays with Mommy? Well, yes, but that was with Mommy. Today, it's just us. How hard can it be, right? Uncle Devin came with us because he said he needed to learn about food procurement. Uncle Devin uses big words when he's trying to sound smart, but I think he just meant he was hungry and didn't know what to buy. At the grocery store, Daddy got a cart and stood in the entrance looking around like he'd never been in a grocery store before, which was weird because we come here every week. "Okay," he said, pulling out his phone. "I made a list." He showed me his list. It said food for Zoe, food for adults, cleaning stuff, other important things. Daddy, that's not really a list. What do you mean? It has everything we need. But what kind of food? Like specific food? Daddy looked at his list again, then at me, then at Uncle Devin, then back at his list. "Healthy food?" he said, like he was guessing the answer to a test question. We started in the produce section, which is where all the fruits and vegetables live. Daddy stood in front of the apples for a really long time. "Do you like apples?" he asked me. "Yes, Daddy. I eat apples every day in my lunch." "Right, apples!" He started putting apples in a bag. A lot of apples. Like enough apples for a whole month. "Daddy, that's a lot of apples." "Apples are healthy. You can never have too many apples." Uncle Devin was staring at the bananas like they were some kind of alien fruit. "How do you know if bananas are good?" "They should be yellow, but not too brown," I said, because Mommy taught me this. "What if they're green?" "Then they're not ripe yet." "What if they're brown?" "Then they're too ripe." Uncle Devin picked up different bananas and showed them to me like I was a banana expert. "This one, too green. This one, perfect. This one, too brown." We spent 15 minutes picking out bananas. 15 minutes for bananas! In the cereal aisle, things got really complicated. Daddy stood in front of all the different cereals looking like his brain was going to explode. "Which cereal do you eat?" "Cheerios for breakfast. Sometimes Lucky Charms on weekends." "Just Cheerios and Lucky Charms?" "And sometimes the granola cereal when Mommy wants me to eat something more healthy." Daddy started putting different boxes in the cart. Not just Cheerios and Lucky Charms, but like 10 different kinds of cereal. Daddy, we don't need all those cereals. But what if you get tired of Cheerios? What if you want variety? I like Cheerios! But what about these? He held up a box of something called Chocolate Explosion Crunch. Kids like chocolate, right? Mommy says cereal shouldn't have more sugar than actual food. But it's fun cereal. Mommy says fun cereal is for special occasions. Daddy looked sad, but he put the Chocolate Explosion Crunch back. Then he immediately picked up something called Strawberry Sugar Bombs. This has strawberries. Fruit is healthy. I looked at the box. The strawberries in the picture looked like they were made of candy, not actual strawberries. I think Mommy would say that's still fun cereal. Everything is fun cereal except Cheerios. And the granola cereal. Right, and the granola cereal. Uncle Devin had been trying to pick out bread this whole time. He kept picking up different loaves and reading the labels like they were written in a foreign language.
What's the difference between all these breads? He asked. Some are white, some are wheat, some have seeds, I said.
Which one do we get? Mommy buys the wheat bread with no high fructose corn syrup.
Why no high fructose corn syrup?
I don't know. She just says it's bad for you. Uncle Devin started reading every ingredient on every loaf of bread. We were in the bread aisle for 20 minutes while he tried to find bread without high fructose corn syrup.
This is harder than it looks, he muttered.
In the meat section, Daddy and Uncle Devin stood in front of all the different packages of chicken, looking completely lost.
Do we need chicken?
Daddy asked.
Mommy makes chicken for dinner sometimes.
What kind of chicken?
Chicken?
They picked up different packages and read the labels. Chicken breast, chicken thighs, whole chicken, chicken tenders.
Which one? Uncle Devin asked. I don't know. They're all chicken, but they're different prices. Maybe the expensive one is better?
Or maybe the cheap one is the same but costs less. Or maybe the expensive one is expensive because it's harder to make? They debated chicken prices for 10 minutes, like they were deciding something really important, like where to go to college or what color to paint the house. Finally, they bought all different kinds of chicken just to be safe. By the time we got to the checkout, our cart was completely full, and everything cost way more money than Daddy expected.
$247?
He said to the cashier lady like she had made a mistake.
That's correct, sir. But we only bought food.
Food is expensive, the cashier lady said in a patient voice like she explains this to confused daddies all the time. Uncle Devin was looking at his receipt like it was a puzzle he couldn't solve.
We spent $60 on snacks. $60 on snacks. The kids' granola bars were on sale,
Daddy said hopefully.
We don't have kids, Uncle Devin pointed out. But Zoe is a kid. One kid doesn't need 40 boxes of granola bars. In the car, surrounded by more groceries than our kitchen could hold, Daddy seemed overwhelmed. How does your mom make this look so easy?
Mommy makes lists with specific things on them, I said. And she uses coupons. And she knows how much everything costs.
Right. Lists. Coupons. Knowing things.
Daddy nodded like he was taking notes.
We can do that next time.
Are we going to eat all this food? Daddy looked at the back seat, which was completely packed with grocery bags. We're going to try, sweetheart. We're definitely going to try. But when we got home and unpacked everything, I could tell that we had bought a lot of things that didn't really go together. Like, we had ingredients for tacos, but no taco shells. We had pasta, but no sauce. We had ice cream, but no cones. Tomorrow, we'll figure out how to turn all this into actual meals, Daddy said, staring at our very full refrigerator. Do you know how to cook, Daddy?
How hard can it be?
Daddy said.
Your mom does it every night.
But looking at all our random groceries, I was starting to think that maybe cooking was one of those things that's harder than it looks. Just like everything else Daddy was trying to learn this week.
Tuesday morning, I woke up at 10 a.m. 10 a.m. I can't remember the last time I slept past 7:30 without an alarm, without someone needing breakfast, without my brain automatically cataloging the day's responsibilities. Aaliyah and I met for breakfast at the Spa Cafe, a meal that appeared in front of us without any planning, preparation, or negotiation. No one asked me to cut their food into smaller pieces or complained that their eggs were too eggy. "I had the weirdest dream," Aaliyah said, sipping coffee that someone else had made. "I dreamed that Devin was calling me, crying because he couldn't figure out how to make a sandwich." "That wasn't a dream," I said, showing her my phone. "Look at this." Marcus had sent a photo at 11:47 p.m. the night before. It showed what I could only describe as a sandwich crime scene: bread, peanut butter, and what appeared to be ketchup assembled in a way that defied both logic and basic food safety. "He made Zoe a peanut butter and ketchup sandwich," I said. "Oh my God," for her school lunch. "That poor child." The follow-up text says, and I quote, "Is this normal?" Zoe ate it but made a face. Aaliyah scrolled through her own messages from Devin. "He tried to make coffee and somehow broke the coffee maker. How do you break a coffee maker?" "The same way you flood a kitchen trying to do laundry, apparently." We booked massages for that afternoon, our first professional massages in years. As the masseuse worked on my neck and shoulders, she commented on how tense my muscles were. "You carry a lot of stress here," she said, working on a particularly stubborn knot. "Do you work at a computer all day?" "I work from home," I said, "but I think the stress is more from managing everything." "Are you a project manager?" I thought about this. You could say that. I manage a very complex, long-term project with multiple stakeholders who have competing priorities and no clear understanding of the budget or timeline. "That sounds challenging." "It's called marriage and motherhood." She laughed, but kept working on the knots in my shoulders. Knots I hadn't even realized were there because I'd been carrying them for so long. During our facials, Aaliyah and I lay side by side in fluffy robes, cucumber slices over our eyes, and for the first time in years, had nowhere to be and nothing to manage. "Can I tell you something terrible?" Aaliyah said. "Please do." "I'm kind of enjoying watching Devin struggle. Like, I know I should feel bad for him, but mostly I feel vindicated. That's not terrible. That's human. For 5 years, he's dismissed everything you do as overthinking or making things complicated. Now he's discovering that what you call overthinking is actually thinking." My phone buzzed. New text from Marcus. "How do you make oatmeal that doesn't taste like cement?" Then, "Never mind, gave her cereal again." Then, "We're out of milk." Then, "How did we run out of milk so fast?" I showed the messages to Aaliyah, who started laughing so hard she nearly knocked the cucumber slices off her eyes. "They're like aliens trying to understand human civilization," she said. "The best part is that they're asking questions about things they've watched us do 1,000 times. Marcus has seen me make oatmeal every morning for 2 years. He's never once paid attention to how it's done." Devin asked me how to load the dishwasher. We've lived together for 5 years. He's seen me load that dishwasher literally every single day. After our facials, we sat in the relaxation room, drinking cucumber water and reading magazines. Real magazines with articles about things that didn't involve optimizing family schedules or managing household budgets. "You know what I just realized?" I said, looking up from an article about sustainable fashion. "I haven't thought about meal planning once today. I haven't made a single list. I haven't checked the weather to plan anyone's outfit. I haven't reminded anyone to brush their teeth, or take their vitamins, or call their mother." We sat in comfortable silence, marveling at the strange sensation of having brains that weren't constantly running background processes for other people's lives. My phone rang. Marcus again. I declined the call, but then it rang again immediately, then again. "Maybe I should answer," I said. "What if something's actually wrong?" What would qualify as actually wrong? Blood, fire, or police involvement? Has he mentioned any of those things? I scrolled through his messages. No blood, no fire, no police. Just a lot of questions about basic life management and complaints about how hard everything is. Then he's not having an emergency. He's having an education. But as the afternoon wore on, the texts became more desperate. Zoe's teacher wants to talk to me about her home situation. What do I say? We're out of everything. How do you shop for food without buying the entire store? I forgot to pick her up from extended care again. I'm a terrible father. Devin flooded the bathroom and the kitchen. Your house might have water damage. Please call me back. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm sorry about what I said Saturday. You were right and I was wrong. I miss you. Zoe misses you. We need you. That last one hit differently. Not the "we need you to fix our problems" need, but actual emotional need. The recognition that I wasn't just a household manager, but a person whose presence mattered. He's starting to get it, I said, showing Aaliyah the message. Devin too, she said, reading her phone. He just texted, I'm sorry I called you controlling. I didn't understand that you were actually holding everything together. Are you going to respond? Not yet. They need to sit with this feeling a little longer. How much longer? Until they understand that an apology isn't enough. They need to change how they see our roles in the family. That evening, we drove to a nearby winery for a sunset tasting. As we sat on the terrace watching the mountains turn purple in the distance, I felt something I'd almost forgotten existed. Peace. Not the exhausted peace of finally getting everyone to bed and having 5 minutes of quiet. Real peace. The peace of not being responsible for anyone's happiness, comfort, or survival except my own. I don't want to go back, I said suddenly. To the hotel? Home. Ever. I want to stay here and live like a person instead of a life support system for other people's convenience. Aaliyah nodded. I know. But we can't actually abandon our families, much as we might want to right now. I know. But maybe we can go back different. Maybe we can go back with boundaries. What kind of boundaries? The kind where we're partners instead of servants. The kind where our contributions are recognized and valued instead of taken for granted. My phone buzzed with another message from Marcus. I love you. I'm learning how much I love you. For the first time since we'd left, I typed back, I love you too. Keep learning. It was the first response I'd sent to any of his messages, and within seconds, my phone was ringing. This time, I answered. Keisha, thank God. I was starting to think you'd never speak to me again. His voice was rough, like he'd been crying or not sleeping. Probably both. I'm speaking to you now. How are you doing? Terribly. Everything is falling apart. I don't know how you do all this every day. I can't even keep track of what Zoe needs for lunch, let alone all the other stuff. What other stuff? All of it. Bills, appointments, groceries, laundry, cooking, cleaning, remembering things. How do you remember everything? Lists, Marcus, calendars, planning, all the things you call micromanaging. I was wrong about that. I was so wrong about everything. I could hear Zoe's voice in the background. Is that Mommy? Can I talk to Mommy? In a minute, sweetheart, Marcus said. Then to me, she misses you so much. We both do. I miss you too, but I needed you to understand what my life actually looks like. I'm starting to get it. I'm starting to understand how much work it is to keep everything running, and I'm starting to understand how much I took for granted. Good, that's the point. When are you coming home? Friday, like I said. That's 3 more days. 3 more days for you to learn what it means to be a full partner in this family instead of a guest who occasionally helps out. I want to be a partner. I do. I don't know how to do any of this stuff. Then learn, Marcus. The same way I learned when Zoe was born. The same way I learned to run a business while managing a household. Figure it out. I heard him take a shaky breath. Okay, I will. I promise I will. Good. Now put Zoe on the phone. I want to hear how she's doing. Mommy! Zoe's voice came through the speaker, bright and excited. Guess what? Daddy made me breakfast and it wasn't terrible. That's wonderful, sweetheart. What did he make? Toast with butter and jam, and he didn't burn it. That sounds delicious. He's learning, Mommy. He's learning slow, but he's learning. I'm proud of him for trying. Are you taking care of yourself? Yes, and I'm helping Daddy learn things. Like how you're supposed to separate the dark clothes from the white clothes when you do laundry. You're a good teacher, Zoe. When are you coming home? I miss reading Charlotte's Web with you. Friday evening, baby, just like I promised. Can you be patient with Daddy while he's learning? I can try, but Mommy, next time Daddy says taking care of me is easy, you should show him this week again. I laughed, really laughed, for the first time since this whole adventure began. I think Daddy has learned that lesson, sweetheart. I'll see you soon. I love you. Love you too, Mommy. After I hung up, Aaliyah looked at me with raised eyebrows. How do you feel? Better. Like maybe this is actually working. Think they'll remember these lessons once we're back? I guess we'll find out. But I'll tell you one thing. I'm never going back to being taken for granted. This week has reminded me that I'm a person, not just a function. To being people, Aaliyah said, raising her wine glass. To being people, I agreed.
Did we make a deal? You're still watching, right? Did you laugh yet? You know what to do. Wednesday was the day Daddy and Uncle Devin decided they were going to cook real food instead of ordering pizza again. This was not a good idea. It started at breakfast when Daddy announced, "Today, we're going to make a home-cooked meal, like a real family." We are a real family, Daddy. I mean like a family where the dad knows how to cook. Uncle Devin was at our kitchen table reading something on his phone. "I found a recipe for spaghetti and meatballs," he said. "It says it's foolproof." "Perfect," Daddy said. "How hard can spaghetti be? It's just pasta and sauce, right?" I wanted to tell them that Mommy's spaghetti and meatballs takes her like 2 hours to make, and she uses a lot of different ingredients. But they seemed really excited about their plan, so I didn't want to ruin it. After school, I found Daddy and Uncle Devin in the kitchen with groceries spread out everywhere. They had bought ground beef, spaghetti noodles, a jar of sauce, and something called Italian seasoning. "See, we have everything," Daddy said proudly. "What about onions?" I asked, because I know Mommy always uses onions in meatballs. "Onions? And eggs? And breadcrumbs." Daddy and Uncle Devin looked at each other, then at their ingredients, then back at each other. "The recipe didn't mention onions," Uncle Devin said. "Maybe it's a different kind of recipe," Daddy said hopefully. They started by trying to make the meatballs. They put the ground beef in a big bowl and started mixing it with their hands. But it was just plain ground beef. No eggs, no breadcrumbs, no seasoning except the Italian seasoning, which they dumped in like it was salt. "This doesn't look right," Uncle Devin said, holding up a handful of meat that kept falling apart. "Maybe we need to add water?" Daddy suggested. "Or milk? Or both?" They added water, which made the meat mixture soggy and weird. Then they tried to roll it into balls, but the meat kept sticking to their hands and falling apart. "These aren't really balls," Uncle Devin observed. "They're more like meat lumps." "Meat lumps can be delicious too," Daddy said, but he didn't sound convinced. While they were fighting with the meat lumps, the kitchen started smelling like smoke. Daddy?" I said. "Something's burning." They had put a pan on the stove and forgotten about it. The pan was now making crackling sounds, and there was black smoke coming from it. "It's fine," Daddy said, turning on the fan above the stove. "It just needs oil." He poured oil into the smoking hot pan, and it immediately started spattering everywhere. Little drops of hot oil were flying around the kitchen like tiny fire bullets. "Maybe turn down the heat?" Uncle Devin suggested, backing away from the stove. "Right, heat!" Daddy started turning knobs on the stove, but instead of turning the heat down, he accidentally turned on another burner, which made everything worse. The smoke alarm started beeping really loud, which made our dog Baxter run and hide under the kitchen table. "I've got this," Uncle Devin said, waving a dish towel at the smoke alarm. But the towel got too close to the stove and caught on fire. The towel is on fire! I yelled. Uncle Devin dropped the burning towel in the sink and turned on the water, which put out the fire, but also soaked everything around the sink. Maybe we should start over, Daddy said, looking at the smoking pan, the wet counter, and the meat lumps that were now scattered on the floor because Uncle Devin had knocked over the bowl when he was dealing with the fire towel. Or we could order pizza, I suggested. No, Daddy said. We are going to cook real food. We just need to regroup. They cleaned up the first disaster and started over. This time, they decided to cook the spaghetti first while they figured out the meatball situation. Uncle Devin filled a big pot with water and put it on the stove. How long does water take to boil? I don't know. 5 minutes? Daddy guessed. They stood there, staring at the pot of water like they could make it boil faster just by looking at it. Is it supposed to bubble? Uncle Devin asked after about 2 minutes. I think so. It's not bubbling. Maybe the heat isn't high enough. Daddy turned the heat all the way up, which seemed like a good idea until the water started boiling so hard it was splashing out of the pot and onto the stove. It's boiling, Uncle Devin announced excitedly. Put in the pasta, Daddy said. Uncle Devin dumped the entire box of spaghetti into the pot, but he didn't break the noodles first. So half of them were sticking up out of the water like weird pasta trees. Should they all be underwater? Uncle Devin asked. Probably. How do we get them underwater? Push them down? Uncle Devin tried to push the pasta down with a fork, but the pasta was hard and kept poking him in the hand. Ow! This is harder than it looks. Maybe they'll get soft and sink down by themselves, Daddy said hopefully. While they waited for the pasta to cooperate, they tried again with the meatballs. This time they used eggs and breadcrumbs, but they used way too many eggs and not enough breadcrumbs, so the mixture was like meat soup. This still doesn't look right, Uncle Devin said. Maybe we don't need meatballs, Daddy suggested. Maybe we just put the meat in the sauce? Like loose meat? Loose meat pasta! That's not spaghetti and meatballs, that's spaghetti and meat crumbles. Close enough. They dumped the soupy meat mixture into a pan and tried to cook it, but because it was so wet, it just sat there making sizzling sounds and not really cooking. Meanwhile, the spaghetti had been boiling for like 20 minutes because nobody remembered to set a timer. When Uncle Devin finally fished out a piece to test it, it was so soft it fell apart.
I think it's ready, he announced. How can you tell? It's very flexible. They drained the pasta, but they didn't know you're supposed to save some of the pasta water, and they didn't know you're supposed to drain it quickly. So the spaghetti sat in the colander getting more and more mushy. By the time they put everything together, the overcooked pasta, the weird meat crumbles, and the jar sauce they heated up in the microwave, it looked like something you'd find in a cafeteria on the last day of school. Ta-da! Daddy said, putting a bowl in front of me. Home-cooked spaghetti and meat. I looked at the bowl. The pasta was mushy like baby food. The sauce was cold in some places and burning hot in other places. The meat looked gray and sad. It looks interesting, I said, trying to be polite. Try it, Uncle Devin said excitedly. We worked really hard on this. I took a small bite. The pasta had no taste except water taste. The sauce tasted like it came straight from the jar, which it did. The meat was chewy and weird and tasted like it needed salt or something to make it taste like food. How is it? Daddy asked hopefully. It's very soft, I said, which was true. Soft is good, right? Sometimes. Daddy tried his own bite and made the same face I probably made. Uncle Devin tried his and immediately reached for his water glass. This is terrible, Uncle Devin said. It's not terrible, Daddy said. It's learning food. Learning food? Food we made while learning how to cook. I think we need more learning, I said. We ended up ordering pizza again, but this time nobody was disappointed because we were all kind of expecting it. While we waited for the pizza, Daddy sat at the kitchen table looking defeated. Your mom makes this look so easy, he said. She just goes in the kitchen and food appears.
Good food. Mommy has been practicing for a long time, I told him. She says cooking is like riding a bike, but first you have to fall off the bike a lot. We definitely fell off the bike tonight, Uncle Devin said, looking at our disaster spaghetti. That's okay, I said. Mommy fell off the bike when she was learning too. She told me she once made cookies that were so hard they could break windows. Really? Really! But now she makes really good cookies.
So there's hope for us?
Daddy asked. There's always hope, I said, which is something Mommy says when I'm having trouble with homework or when I can't figure out how to braid friendship bracelets.
Tomorrow we'll try something easier,
Daddy said.
like
Sandwiches. Sandwiches are good, I agreed.
How hard can sandwiches be?
Uncle Devin asked. Daddy and I looked at each other. After watching them try to cook spaghetti, I was pretty sure they could find a way to mess up sandwiches too. But I didn't say that out loud because they were trying really hard. And Mommy always says that trying is the most important part of learning, even if your spaghetti turns out like mushy baby food with gray meat crumbles.
Wednesday night, something shifted. The texts from Marcus became less about asking for help with specific tasks and more about genuine distress. "I can't do this," came in at 11:47 p.m. "I don't know how you've been doing this for 9 years. I'm exhausted and we've only been at this for 3 days." Then, at midnight, Zoe asked me why I never learned how to take care of her before. I didn't know what to say. At 12:15 a.m., "I'm scared I'm messing her up. What if she thinks I don't care about her because I don't know how to make her lunch properly or remember her school schedule?" Aaliyah showed me her phone. Devin's messages were similar. "I keep thinking about all the times I complained when you asked me to help with basic stuff around the house. I didn't realize you were carrying all of this alone." Thursday morning, we decided to try something new, a couples massage. Except it was just the two of us, getting massages side by side, talking about our marriages like they were fascinating anthropological studies instead of our actual lives. It's interesting how quickly they've gone from "this is easy" to "this is impossible," the massage therapist commented when we explained our situation. She introduced herself as Linda and mentioned she'd been married for 30 years. "Oh, honey," Linda said, working on a particularly stubborn knot in Aaliyah's shoulder. "I've seen this before. Men often don't realize that managing a household is a skill set that takes years to develop. They see the end result: clean clothes, organized schedules, balanced meals, but they don't see all the planning and labor that goes into it." "The planning is what gets me," I said. "Marcus keeps asking me how to do individual tasks, but he doesn't understand that it's not just about knowing how to do laundry. It's about knowing when to do laundry so everyone has clean clothes when they need them." Exactly, it's systems thinking. Women are often socialized to think in terms of interconnected systems, how one task affects all the others. Men are often socialized to think in terms of individual problems with individual solutions. "So when Devin asks me how to make dinner," Aaliyah said, "he's not thinking about how dinner connects to grocery shopping, meal planning, dietary restrictions, cleanup, and tomorrow's lunch prep." "Right. He's just thinking about dinner as a single isolated task." My phone rang. Marcus calling at 10:30 a.m. on a Thursday. I almost didn't answer, but something in the timing felt urgent. Marcus never called during work hours unless something was actually wrong. "Keisha, thank God, I need help." His voice sounded shaky, almost panicked. "What's wrong? Is Zoe okay?" "Zoe's fine, physically fine, but something happened at school." My heart rate spiked. "What happened?" "Mrs. Peterson called me to come in for a conference about Zoe's home situation." "What about her home situation?" Apparently, Zoe told her class that her mom went away to teach her dad a lesson about taking care of kids. And when Mrs. Peterson asked her how things were going at home, Zoe said, and I quote, "Daddy is learning that taking care of me is harder than he thought it would be." I closed my eyes. This was exactly what I'd been afraid of, that our marital experiment would affect Zoe's sense of security. What did Mrs. Peterson say? She was very nice about it, but she asked if we were having marital problems. She asked if there was anything the school should know about our family transition. She offered to connect us with resources for families in crisis. Oh, Marcus. The worst part is, I couldn't even explain the situation without sounding like a complete idiot. Well, you see, my wife left because I said taking care of our daughter was easy, and she wanted to prove me wrong. I mean, how do you say that to your kid's teacher? What did you tell her? I told her that you were out of town for a few days and that I was adjusting to managing Zoe's routine by myself, which is technically true, but Keisha, the way she looked at me, like she was worried about Zoe. Are you worried about Zoe? There was a long pause. Yes. Not because she's in any danger. I mean, she's fed and clean and getting to school, but because I can see how my incompetence is affecting her. She's being so patient with me, helping me figure out things I should already know. And yesterday, when I couldn't find her library book and she missed library time at school, she just said, "It's okay, Daddy. Mommy will help us find it when she comes home." His voice broke on the last sentence. She shouldn't have to be the patient one, Keisha. She's 9 years old. She should be able to depend on her father to know basic things about her life. You're right. I am the worst husband and father in the world. No, Marcus. You're a husband and father who's finally learning what the job actually entails. I don't know how to do any of this without you. Then learn. Figure it out. The same way I did when she was a baby and I was scared and confused and had no idea what I was doing. But you made it look so easy. Because I practiced, Marcus. For 9 years, I've been practicing, every day making mistakes, figuring things out, getting better at it. You've been watching me do it, but you haven't been doing it yourself. I know, and I'm sorry. Sorry isn't enough anymore. What are you going to do differently when I come home? Everything. I want to learn everything. I want to be a real partner, not just someone who lives in the house and pays some of the bills. Okay, then learn. Start right now. Don't wait for me to come home and fix everything. Learn how to be Zoe's father in a way that makes her feel secure, not like she has to take care of you. After I hung up, Aaliyah looked at me with concern. How are you feeling about all this? Sad, I said honestly. Sad that it took this much chaos for him to understand what I do every day. Sad that Zoe is caught in the middle of our marriage problems. But also, hopeful? Like maybe this is the crisis that finally changes things. Devin called me crying last night, Aaliyah said. Actually crying. He said he keeps thinking about all the times he's come home from work and asked what I'd been doing all day, like managing our entire life was just sitting around watching TV. Are you going to forgive them? I'm going to forgive them, but I'm not going to forget this, and I'm not going back to being taken for granted. That afternoon, we did something we'd never done in 5 years of friendship. We sat by the pool and talked about our dreams. Not dreams for our families or our husbands or our children, dreams for ourselves. I want to expand my design business, I said. I want to hire an assistant and take on bigger projects, but I've always been afraid to because it would mean less time to manage everything at home. What if managing everything at home wasn't entirely your job anymore? Then maybe I could actually grow my business into something bigger. I want to travel for work more, Aaliyah said. There are conferences and opportunities I've turned down because Devin can't handle things by himself when I'm gone. What if he learned how to handle things? Then maybe I could actually advance in my career instead of holding myself back to accommodate his incompetence. My phone buzzed. Text from Marcus. I called Mrs. Peterson back, told her the truth, that I've been taking my wife's contributions to our family for granted and that I'm learning to be a better partner and father. She said she was proud of me for being honest and offered to help me understand Zoe's school routine better. I showed the message to Aaliyah. That's actually really good, she said. He's taking responsibility instead of making excuses. Yeah, it's a start. Another text. Also, I managed to make Zoe a sandwich for lunch that she said was almost as good as Mommy's. Progress? Despite everything, I smiled. Definitely progress. That evening, as we had dinner at another restaurant where no one needed me to cut their food or negotiate about vegetables, I realized something important. I don't want to go back to the way things were, I said. Me neither. But I do want to go back home. I miss Zoe, and I miss Marcus, even though I'm still angry with him. I miss Devin too, but I want to go back to a different relationship, one where we're actually partners. Think they've learned enough to make that possible? I guess we'll find out tomorrow.
If you liked my story, write about it in the comments. Maybe then we'll meet again in another video.